All right, welcome everybody to our session regarding Azure OpenAI. We will have a brief look into the Azure OpenAI service with you today. So my name is Steven. I'm the IoT data and analytics domain lead for Codit Belgium, and I will be here together with Tim.
So hello, I'm a cloud solution architect working for Microsoft. My focus is data and AI, and in that context, we'll be happy to share you some knowledge and insights with you today.
All right, let's start. I think everybody already knows today, but everything is rapidly changing. And if you haven't noticed, but AI is everywhere. And organizations are already investing and adopting a lot of AI solutions within their company. If we look just a few years back, we had the pandemic, and we see that people or organizations that were already investing in AI solutions performed better during the pandemic and even came out stronger than before the pandemic. And now we are at the point that we also see that things are even moving faster. And we see also that generative AI is part of that, because we can now, in a more human way, use these kind of solutions within our applications, within our company, to drive our digital transformation further in the future. So let's first have a brief look at what actually artificial intelligence is, because it's a very broad definition, let's say. So already many years back, people had a definition for artificial intelligence, which mainly meant that a computer would be able to create an output without having really saying what it needs to do. So it can learn on itself what it needs to output on some specific questions or tasks that were asked to it. One of the first implementations that we saw was effectively machine learning. This was really, you fed some data through it, like weather data, for example, and you try to map an analytical model on top of it, and then it can predict in the future, for example, depending on the weather, how many sales you will, for example, have. This was very limited, so it was like it was trained to actually solve one specific problem. But people were thinking further, and then we saw the rise of deep learning. In deep learning, we have actually a model which is trained to not only solve one specific problem, but can solve a lot of problems with the same model. This then led what we have today, because now we have also generative AI, which is actually one of those models that's being able to give you a response or an answer based on an input that you gave, and it completely learned it by itself what the effective answer should be on your question. If we look at these models are actually trained on parameters. So you just gave them a set of data, they train themselves, and they try to figure out which parameters they need to use to create a good response on top of your question. Microsoft already developed these models a long time ago. They started with the BERT model, which was at that point using 340 million parameters within the model. But very quickly, other models came out, and just the number of parameters went up dramatically. Also, then OpenAI came with their models. They have now 175 billion parameters, for example. And now we see with GTP 3.5 and GTP 4, they don't even disclose anymore the number of parameters that they are using. They are mainly focusing on having new capabilities and making sure that people can effectively use these models better in the future.
So what you have been seeing since last year with the rise of ChatGPT and OpenAI giving AI to the world is not an overnight success, basically. It is the result of many years of work. And as you could see on the previous slide, the models that you have seen growing, GPT-3 for example, GPT-1, GPT-2, which aren't shown, have been models that have been built by OpenAI on top of the Microsoft Azure infrastructure, which Microsoft has built especially for OpenAI, so that OpenAI could build those models. And what's important here is to understand that OpenAI and Microsoft are two different companies. You may have heard about that little saga a few weeks ago, but in a sense the same story still applies. There are two companies, each serve their own purpose. And there are two things you need to know about it. The first one is that OpenAI uses that supercomputer that Microsoft has built. Microsoft has put in a lot of money. I think now they're at $11 billion that has been invested from Microsoft into OpenAI. And the second thing is that OpenAI, as a return on that investment, has given Microsoft the exclusive permission to use the results of that work in their products. That's what you see in the Azure OpenAI service. All those co-pilots that have been announced, for example, in Microsoft 365, security, GitHub, all those services are basically the result of Microsoft building on top of the OpenAI service that OpenAI has provided. What's important is that Microsoft is not only partnering with OpenAI, but there are others. For example, Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook, Hugging Face, NVIDIA. NVIDIA is also an important one because they built the graphics cards, the GPUs that are absolutely necessary to be able to do massive parallel processing. And in that regard, it totally makes sense to have that strong partnership. And 2 weeks ago at the Ignite conference in Seattle, the CEO of Microsoft and NVIDIA together went on stage, underlining the importance of that strategic partnership. We all have been playing around with ChatGPT, AI services all around since last year, and people have been extremely touched by that technology in their personal lives. This is the first time in a very long time that people have been experiencing that rise in productivity in a personal context. It also means that they now want to experience the same productivity boost in the professional context. And because of that, 87% of organizations believe that AI in the form that we know today will really accelerate their businesses, will transform their businesses to a whole new experience, a whole new level.
Yes, so we already heard a lot of buzzwords concerning AI and generative AI, of course, but if we look at companies that are doing their digital transformation, it's all actually funded on the data that they have. So the data is actually what makes them innovate, what makes them succeed in their future business that they want to do. And they actually want to make or better decisions, or they actually want to provide better customer experiences, let's say. So really it's the key. So data is the key, and we actually say that data is the oxygen for innovation. And it's actually the foundation for your digital transformation. So at the heart is the data is effectively at the heart of your digital feedback loop. So within your organization, you can have very different domains that can provide you data. So it's very important to put that data central in your organization, so you can enable better decision making, for example, create new experiences, new ways of working, and all of these kind of things. Now, what we see at customers is not always getting the data, that's the issue. It's more like, how do I store that data and how do I transform that data so I effectively can get insights out of my data. And this is actually where we as Codit can help you with. We have built this kind, we call it our house, where we actually put into the central the data platform which enables your AI solutions. So it's a central data platform layer which is funded on 4 pillars. First one, for example, is automation. We make sure that we fully automate your solution. So if you have new business cases, for example, that we can easily adapt your infrastructure so you can also onboard those new use cases. It needs to be scalable, not set. We have a lot of IoT devices that are creating data, so you need to be sure that your platform can also scale. Governance very important, being that your data is protected, that only authorized people can access your data. And data ownership, you have a lot of data streams, so you need to make sure that everybody takes ownership of their data so that you have good quality data that can be used by different domains within your organization. This data needs to come from somewhere. We originally started as an integration company, so we have that very strong integration layer, being it batch integration or integration from IoT sensors. Once we have the data in the data platform, then we can use different AI solutions to actually gain insights depending on your use case. We will pick the most appropriate solution that fits your business needs. And in the end, you want to integrate that AI solution into your applications, being it through an app modernization or reporting or something else. And of course, this completely shielded, so you have cybersecurity end-to-end, protecting your data, protecting your access to your complete platform.
So if you then ask a question, well, what can AI do for you? Well, the answer is not just a simple answer. There are a lot of things AI can start doing for you today. But what's most important is that a lot of organizations have to go through a typical, what we call a generative AI adoption journey. This means that there are a few stages that any organization that wants to start adopting generative AI in a safe way can do so. And for example, if you take a look at those 4 phases, I'm not going to go into detail of every single one, but the first one, for example, exploring, you need to come up with a structure, with a governance, tools, things that can help people in your organization to start using that technology in a safe way. To give an example, if people use ChatGPT that they can use in their personal context, also in the professional context, then you typically have a big problem. Because that would mean that 1, your data will go to the US. 2, your data can be used for training purposes and for training future models. So that means that you really need to think about setting up the correct tools. For example, an internal ChatGPT, a governance process so that people know what they can use and how they can use it in a safe way. So think about those kind of things. And the next stage is making sure that people can use generative AI, that chat that you set up, in your company context against your data. The data that Steven talked about, it's really important that if you have that data platform, that you really can connect it to the generative AI solution that you have in place, so that people can get insights faster and more structured than ever before. Having governance in place, not only for your AI, but also for your data, is there crucial. Then you can start scaling. Think about process automation, using generative AI in the steps that typically are low-value tasks, those kind of things that you can start doing. And then last one is the innovation part. Microsoft has been talking a lot about co-pilots. You have heard about co-pilots, which was Bing Chat. You also have Copilot for Microsoft 365, you have GitHub Copilot, and there are a lot more that have been announced over the last few months. But what you can also do is start building your own Copilot on top of your applications, next to your applications, and that is really nice because Microsoft has the framework that Microsoft uses internally for building the Copilots is open sourced, and everybody can start leveraging on that. It consists out of a few layers, and so you have apps, co-pilots, web apps, plugins that you can make available. Then you have your orchestration layer where AI, and I'll zoom in on that to make it easier, where you have safety, prompt content filtering, grounding, chatting with your data, those kind of things. And if I then just zoom in on a few of those, each layer basically has a set of building blocks available in the Microsoft context. If I zoom in on the first one, this is really a nice one. There are some connections that you can start leveraging today to make sure that you connect your Azure OpenAI, your internal ChatGPT, for example, to data that you have available in your organization, so that people can start getting insights, asking questions about documents that live in your organization, data that you have in your organization, really to make sure that they become a lot more productive. What you can also do with that Copilot stack is start leveraging plugins. A plugin if people have a paying OpenAI subscription, they will already have access to plugins. You can also start building your own. On top of APIs that you have invested in already for many years, probably, those plugins you can leverage in the Copilots that you built yourself. But what is very nice there is that you can also start making those plugins available in the Microsoft Copilots, which means that, for example, if you have a Copilot for Microsoft 365, that you can add a plugin of your own products and really have people create PowerPoint presentations on top of your, with the help of the skills that you have built yourself in your context. So Microsoft 365 and the Copilots are not just services anymore that you can start using, but they become a platform on which you can build yourself, which is really, really nice. One of the things that is also really nice is that Codit has been building one of those Copilots.
Yes, indeed. So, as already mentioned in the past, we were originally an integration company. So we came from the BizTalk stack, and we are now moving to AIS, so the Azure Integration Services. And for our customers, we are actually building a product which is called Invictus, and this gives them actually an insights into their integration layer, so they can see all of the flows that are happening in their integration layer. They can see how many were failed, how many succeeded, and all of these kind of things. But now with the Azure OpenAI, we can effectively also build a Copilot to even give them the next experience onto their Invictus dashboard, where they now don't only see like the technical details of their integration layer, but they can also really look like the business insights into their integration layer. So they can really ask questions about what's happening in their integration layer and further experience or get a better experience on that layer. So what can we as Codit effectively do for you, let's say? We really want to start from your business case, from your pain points, or how you like to call it. So we don't have really a product. We really build something for you, custom built, really. And we just look at your business case. We try to already come up with a high-level architecture, so it really becomes tangible. So we really just show and not too much talk about it. And then we can, as already said, now it's very easy to integrate with your own data. So we can start with that exploring phase where we immediately start talking to your data and see what insights we can effectively find back into your data.
And then we want to leave you with this slide, and I'm going to give you some context. This slide was shown at the Microsoft Build Developer Conference in May by our Deputy CTO of Azure, Sam Schaeps, who gave a story where he explained that 15 years ago, 20 years ago, people were around, I think, the website, internet came to be. Websites were created for companies. A lot of companies created websites, a lot of companies didn't. And at some point, people started looking up companies by searching for their websites instead of going to the yellow pages. At some point, people did not find companies via their website, and people really thought, they don't exist anymore. People started looking elsewhere for other companies that did have a website, even though they were very ugly. But that was not the point. He predicted that the same thing is going to happen with AI. Organizations and applications that adopt AI in their context, that really embrace this change, will be successful. People will want to have generative AI, natural language interaction with applications in their professional context. Not having it will probably mean that they will start looking elsewhere for better solutions that do have that functionality or that total new experience. He predicted that it will take no more than 3 years for this to happen. So if you want to be there, jump on the train and make sure to go forward. And with that, thank you very much for your time and your attention.
I don't know, are there any questions in the audience that we need to address now? Otherwise, you can always find us at the Microsoft booth or at the Codit booth as well in the Experience Garden. But otherwise, if there are no questions, we will just leave you up to the next session, and we can always connect.
Proximus Next. Think possible.